Before today's episode, I wish to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and recognise their continued connection to the beautiful land and sea. I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and I extend this acknowledgement to the traditional owners of the land my listeners are on. Welcome to Ritual the Podcast, your cottage in the woods. A sacred space for the witches, the healers, the magical folk to meet and speak of wisdom, witchery, and old world magic, where people come to learn, to hear stories, to share secrets, and to be free to be their true selves. Welcome to Ritual.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Ritual. My name is Amy Harvey and I am very excited to be back with you guys once more. Now today is very exciting because I am joined by a wonderful guest. I haven't done one of these ones in a while. I blame Poet and his being a little babiness. But I'm very excited to be back and chatting with other witches because it's probably my favorite thing to do with this podcast. No offense to Paddy, I do love my episodes with him. I should, you know what, scratch that because he's going to get offended. But with today's guest, one thing that I do love about social media is that it brings people together. It does have a lot of negatives, and there are a lot of people out there that I totally don't agree with anything that they have to say. But there are a few gems that you do find, and I am really grateful that today one of those is here with me. I am with Hannah Purdon. She is a green witch. She is a witch from Tasmania as well. So we have another Aussie witch on our hands. She's a psychic medium. She has her own business, and she is just one of those witches that I just love her whole vibe because she is real. She doesn't try to, like, you know how there are some people that just try and like over dramatize witchcraft, or they make it way too complicated. Like, she just keeps it simple. She's a mom. She reminds you that it doesn't have to be this big show. It's just like super simple things that you can do every day. And she's just got a cool vibe. And I had to get her on because we've been chatting more and more on social media. And I thought, you know what? This gives me an excuse to just actually talk to her kind of face to face. We're so close being in Melbourne and Tasmania, but not quite close enough. So Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much. That was a god. You can tell that you're a Leo like me because I'm like, oh, wow, thank you so much for that.
I should have started with that you're a Leo because like
I love that. No, I'm like, oh, thank you so much.
How are you going?
Good. I'm going really good. I've had a nice chill morning this morning. Actually, I did have to get up at 7 o'clock this morning though. I go to the supermarket because I completely forgot to get lunch stuff yesterday.
Oh no.
It's like, oh my God, the kids. And I thought, oh, it's so early. I nearly Ubered it here. And I thought, don't do that. Don't do that, Hannah. So I was like, I better get in the car. So I went and got lunch stuff. But apart from that, it's been really relaxed.
We nearly had that actually. We had 4 slices of bread left, so enough for sandwiches. So when Noah was like, I would like toast, we're like, no, you cannot have toast this morning.
I've been there. I know, right? You know, when you're going to ration it out, you're like, okay, how can I make this work?
Yeah,
because
you have to minority report it.
Yeah, I actually hate going to the supermarket. If I can not go, I will not go. But obviously with kids, you have to go, right? So I'm like, yeah, so I've been there with the toasting before though. I now have bread in my freezer at all times, but I was like, I can't make sandwiches out of that. I can make breakfast, but I can't make sandwiches.
I see people who go, I've made like a whole term's worth of lunches, and they like freeze them all and then just put the lunch in the lunchbox to defrost. And I'm like, that's horrible. That would taste so bad.
So soggy. It would taste soggy. Also, I wish I could be that like organized mom. Like in my head, I am that, but then I realized I'm not, and I knew that I wasn't because on Mother's Day, my kids like brought that up in their carts, and I was like, wow, I'm really the chaotic mom. It's like, Zabe said, although he did say, my eldest said to me, oh, you're so powerful. And I was like, oh, that's really sweet. That's really sweet. But he also said like, oh, I don't like it when we argue, but I know that it's just us having some conflict. I forgot what he said exactly, but then he said on there, and I love it even when you forget things. No, of course you mentioned the fact that I forget things. Yeah, I can't help it. I'm trying my best, man.
That was like Noah's Mother's Day thing he did at school. It was like, what do you love best about, or what does your mum do best? And he goes, my mum is the best at shopping. And I'm like,
I saw that. I thought that was so funny. Like, oh, okay, touche. I am a Leo.
Patty's like, interesting. Yeah, I agree with that one.
You should tell Patty. Oh, that's what happens when you marry a Leo. I'm sorry.
I know. Well, he's a Leo as well. He should understand.
Oh, they really?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no, we had this conversation. I remember you telling me that.
Because your partner's a Leo as well, isn't he?
Well, we thought he was. So we're actually born, like I told you, we're born on the exact same day. But because I was born in the morning and he was born in the afternoon, because the 23rd of August is like a cusp date, even though there's no such thing as cusp. Because I was born in the morning, I'm a Leo, and because he was born in the afternoon, he's Virgo. But he didn't know that until he met me and I did his birth chart. And then I was like, oh my God, you're not a Leo at all. And he's like, at first he hated it. He was like, no way. But then in the end, he was like, actually, I'm proud to be a Virgo. That makes a lot of sense. And it actually makes so much sense. He's like so Virgo, it's not even funny.
That's so cool. Isn't that funny how it's like only hours can define your personality traits?
Yeah, literally. It's so funny too, because sometimes I'm like, I said to my mum, are you sure I was born like in the morning? Because sometimes I definitely have Virgo traits, but I have a Virgo Venus. So that kind of like makes sense.
What's your three?
I think it shines through sometimes. I'm a Leo sun, Gemini moon, which makes a whole lot of sense, to be honest. I think the chaos is the Gemini moon. And then I'm a Cancer rising, which makes sense because I have like kind of a moon face. Yeah, like even on the side, it's like kind of moon facey. At first I got offended when someone said, oh yeah, you kind of do have a moon face. Oh my God. But then I was like, you know what? No, I love the moon. I'm proud to be a moon face.
Yeah.
It's okay with me now.
Funny. I saw.
Yeah, I think it's because like I have like, I don't know what it is.
I saw that you do chaos baking.
Oh yeah. I don't measure anything. Right? I'm like, it'll either work or it won't. And even my partner the other day said, like, you should start measuring things. I was like, my ancestors would never have done that. They didn't have things. So I'm thriving in the chaos. And it's either gonna work. It's an experiment. I'm just simply chucking things in. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, that didn't work. I'm never doing that again. But I feel like with baking, as long as you have like baking powder and like eggs, you really can't muck it up. Like you really can't muck it up. You just put it in for a little bit longer, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm like, I feel like you can't muck it up. Oh, that's fine. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because I haven't mucked anything up badly yet. Although I did make bread the other day and I definitely didn't let it rise enough. And I put it in and it was like super dense. I was like, oh, I'm in my bread making era, but I'm not very good at it yet.
Bread's different. It's like a whole science, and one that I wish I could embrace, but I think I've had too many failures and now it's knocked my confidence. But I want to be a bread making person.
Right, same. I see it all the time. I see the people that sourdough. I'm like, I got to nail the white bread first. Yeah. Man. I know, right? Nathan, I was looking at baguettes the other day and he was like, oh, that's too many steps. I'm just going to buy it. I was like, that's not why you should do it though. And he said, yeah, but it's easier. And it is easier. Right? I can't imagine that. It's the Virgo in him that's like, if he doesn't get it first try, he won't do it ever again. He's like, nah. Whereas I will just keep going. I don't care. And even then, yeah. And if it tastes horrible, I'll just like gaslight Nathan to tell him that tastes amazing. I don't know what you're on. No, that tastes great. He's like, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. All right. So that's the only thing I haven't like with the chaos baking. I think that's the one thing I'm like just still very much working on is the bread. But
we'll get there.
But I have nailed the muffins and stuff. And I feel like you can do so much. I feel like I'm really into the kitchen witchery at the moment. I don't know if it's just because it's like autumn, winter. I always get into that vibe.
Because it forces you inside and you want to make things that make you feel good and cozy and like warm. And that's baking in soup and bread and all that stuff. So I think that it makes sense because I'm the same as well.
Yeah. So I'm just in my chaos witchery, kitchen witchery baking. Everyone on TikTok's probably like, what is she doing now? I don't know either.
It's crazy.
You know as much as I know. I don't know. There's so many videos I've made that are just sitting in my drafts because I'm like, people will come for me if I bake like that too much.
Yeah, me.
The bakers will be like, what are you doing?
You're hurting
How did you find me?
I am blocking you hardcore now.
Why the algorithm do me dirty? Oh,
All
dear.
right, so let's actually begin with my question.
Yes. Go, shoot.
So let's begin at the very start of your day. Do you have a morning ritual? And it can be magical, mundane, a bit of both.
I do and I don't. I hope that makes sense. It really depends on the kids, first of all, very much. So sometimes the morning routine might not happen until like I've dropped them to school and then I've come home and then it's sort of like, you know, just like chill and quiet.
Yeah.
If they're, you know, feeling good and they're not bickering with one another, then the morning routine happens pretty much when I first wake up. But the first thing I always do is obviously the coffee, right? And I always tell people, and I've done this on TikTok many times, you know, that's where, for me personally, my morning ritual starts, because then I can do like my pentagram in my coffee. I can also put cinnamon in it. Like you can put lots of things in coffee and tea, and get creative with it. And cinnamon's also not only like an abundance herb and, you know, great for love and all that sort of stuff, but it's also really good for like your heart health. So it actually helps like the blood flow through your body. So it's really good to have that in winter or autumn and winter, because then you're actually warming up your body at the same time and actually getting things going. You should actually have a lot of warming herbs in those months, because it, you know, you get less cold that way. But yeah, so, and then obviously coffee makes things happen really quickly. So sometimes if I'm like, oh, cheat code, I'll do like my protection pentagram in the morning, and then I'll add, you know, cinnamon or whatnot if I want to call that in. But then it also tastes really good. But then also I'll set the intention with coffee. So let's say I need something to happen that day. As I'm stirring in my intention, like towards myself, I'm also calling whatever it is that day that I need to get done in quicker. Because coffee obviously, and like I always say, at the end of the day, you can buy all these like, you know, fancy herbs and things like that. And don't get me wrong, I love that. Obviously, Leo, I can't help myself.
We need
but
all the things.
right, yeah, all the things. I'm shocking for that. But then, you know, you can find the most simplest things just in the cupboard that you can use. So like coffee, cinnamon. I mean, most people have these things in their cupboard, and you just get creative with that. So the coffee is always my morning ritual more than anything else. And then I'll maybe listen to like a podcast on the way to school drop off, again, depending on how the kids are going. But that's kind of like my morning ritual. I don't really do too much. It's really dependent on how I'm feeling that day, and also where I am in my like menstrual cycle and things like that. So like during like the luteal and the menstrual phase, I kind of show up very differently. Whereas like the follicular and the ovulation phase, which I thrive in, and I always wish I could bottle up that energy and just and have that energy, so I could be like, oh, I need to get this done today. Let's bottle that up. And then, but so yeah, the follicular and the ovulation phase is where I do the most of my morning like rituals. And then I would say the luteal and the menstrual phase, I tend to do more of the nighttime rituals. That's what I tend to kind of do. So I try not to put too much pressure on myself to have a ritual, because otherwise I feel like it feels really forced. And then I'm like, the intention's not there. It's like, I may as well, you know, may as well just not do it. So yeah, it depends on where I am in my cycle. But coffee, I mean, it doesn't matter where I am in my cycle. It's always the groundedness. And because I have ADHD, it doesn't actually make me have energy. It just actually calms me down, which is nice. Yeah, it helps me think a lot clearer.
I love that you work so closely with your cycle. It's definitely something that I want to like learn about and embrace more, because I think as a woman, we kind of have this like ingrained thing that you shouldn't talk about it. Like it's just a negative thing. And it's like, oh, it's that time of the month, you know, there's nothing really like positive about it. But I think when you actually like break it down and learn to work with it, I think there's so much power in that. And I love that you do that. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I know. I wish I did it sooner. I think I started really leaning into it. I would say probably about 2021, 2022, I really leaned into it a lot more. And I don't actually even know what sparked it. I think what sparked it is I started realizing how I was ovulating and then having my menstrual phase, like my period, around certain times of moon phases. And then I kind of started diving deep into it. And then I was like, this is actually really amazing. And even just to do a lot of my practices around like those 4 seasons, because like we're so in tune with nature that we don't even realize how we're connected to the moon, how we're connected to the seasons. Like it all kind of correlates, whereas men obviously are connected to like the sun energy, where it's very like, you know, you think of a sunny day, how much more motivated do you feel?
Exactly.
And that's how you think of like men, they have that like testosterone, and they have that, you know, they wake up in the morning and they've got all that energy, which I sometimes get envious of, Nathan. Like I wish I had that level of energy that you have. But like just even understanding how that works, and then how like my partner works, and also getting him to understand how I work and how certain practices and rituals for me are really important, that I make time to do it, and that like, you know, he helps me with the kids so I can do that.
Yeah.
And that's something that we've worked really hard on, is to like have that communication with one another, where I can be like, hey, I'm in the luteal phase of my cycle, and he knows that means I'm going to be kind of introspective. Like, don't put social situations on me out of nowhere. Like, you need to give me some like, you know, some leeway, so I know to kind of get myself ready to do that, or I can tell you I don't feel up for it. So things like that. And then if I say I need to do this, it's really important for me, he understands why it's important for me. But yeah, it's crazy how my rituals change around those, you know, seasons. So obviously like your menstrual phase is the winter phase, the autumn phase is luteal, the ovulation phase is summer, and then the follicular phase is the spring. And obviously right now I'm in my spring energy, which is why yesterday I was like, I'm baking bread, I'm cutting firewood, yes. And then during the ovulation phase is where I do like a lot of like my road openings, my like if I want to invite new beginnings in and things like that, I tend to do it around that time. And even structuring like my, you know, my business around my cycle as well has been just revolutionary. Like I just wish I had done all this so much sooner, because it really has helped my mental health so much more. And then obviously when my mental health is good, it means like my spiritual health is good, and my practices are like on point. And they're not out of like a forced nature, because we both know if you do anything out of a forced nature, it's just the energy is not going to be there. Yeah, it's like you may as well just not do it. And I think a lot of people do that, and they force it, and they say, especially at the, you know, the beginning of your witchcraft journey, if you're trying to force something and it's just not working for you, then just don't do it. Like even when you put that reel up this morning, I was like, I love that. Like when you were talking about how, you know, everyone's witchcraft journey is so different, and I get a lot of questions about like, where do I start? And I always think, I can't actually tell you that, because it's so in with spirituality, you know, witchcraft spirituality, there's no beginning. It's like, as in like, there's no one point that everyone should start on. It's just sort of like wherever you feel called to go, just do it, dabble in stuff. You'll soon find out whether you like it or if you don't like it, and things like that. But anyway, I've gone on a tangent there, but
no, that's actually good, because my next question was, where did you begin on your witchcraft journey? Like, were you always a witch, or did it come to you at a certain point in your life? Like, how did it happen?
Good question. So let me think about this. Where did I start? I guess I've been kind of doing it my whole life, if I really think about it, right? And I don't want to be that cliche person like, oh, when I was little, I was obsessed with fairies and unicorns. And I mean, I think we all read the Flower Fairies books and Shirley Barber books. I mean, I don't know anyone that's not a millennial, right? Yeah, everyone that's a millennial experienced that. Most people anyway. I mean, most people I know experienced that. But so kind of like, I guess, knowing that the 90s especially was like that witchcraft era where it became a little bit more, I guess, I don't want to say normal, because it's never been not normal, but you know what I mean, more mainstream. That's probably the word. Which I love. I know a lot of people say they don't like that when things become mainstream, but I don't really agree with that. I think it's actually good that it's, because it's more inviting. Everyone should be able to experience it.
And it just normalizes it more. It's not so like taboo and like, you know, all witches are going to eat your children. It's not like that.
Yeah, exactly. I do, although I do love when people comment on my stuff. I think someone said the other day on one of my reels, something like that, and I wrote back, yeah, I will. Obviously I won't, but like it's hilarious. I'm gonna go along with it.
It's actually on my to-do list today to eat.
Right? Yeah. I'm in the menstrual phase of my cycle, don't mess with me. But so yeah, I guess it was always sort of there, especially inspired by, you know, the fact that I was born in the 90s. But I'm very lucky. I do have an auntie who does witchcraft, and I've learned a lot from her. So, you know, she was like that person I kind of aspired to be. And I guess I feel very lucky that I had that in my life, because all the rest of my family are very much like, no way. Like, you know,
I
they're
was
either
gonna
very
say, are your family, are they like encouraging of your path or not keen?
not really keen on it, which I think that was a lot for me at the time. I was like trying to prove myself, and then when I realized like I don't need to prove myself, I
No.
can just be who I want to be, and I'm going to accept you for who you guys are.
Is it because of religious reasons or just like personal?
Some are religious and some is personal. Some like there's a few people close to me who are very atheist. Like
Yeah,
they
right.
just believe like they believe nothing, which I mean, I've never understood that. I've always believed that there's something.
Me too.
Yeah. So my mindset's like, okay, that's really weird. And it's always like the joke of the family, kind of where I'm like the black sheep, and I'm like, okay, I don't even that saying. I'm like, what's wrong with? I don't know. There's a lot to even unpack with that.
Too, right?
Right. And I'm even unpacking what black sheep means. I'm like, there's racism rooted in that. But anyway, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But yeah, so it kind of just started the fact that my auntie inspired me, and I came out of really bad relationship. And I guess I kind of started to realize I could dabble in it. So I had like crystals and things like that, but I always hid them from the person I was with at the time because it just wasn't accepted.
Yeah.
It was made fun of. And, you know, back then, I guess if I'm being honest with myself, really relied on validation from others. And I'm not afraid to admit that. I very much relied on that at that point in my life. And then once I decided, no, I need better for myself, I need better for my kids, I can't have this relationship in my life. And then we split up, and then I kind of dabbled in it here and there. And then I don't even know where exactly I started. I think it was like candle magic and just like getting more and more depth with my like herbal knowledge and things like that. And then obviously wanting to have like a little garden. So at the time I was renting like a really little unit. I was a single parent. So I did like my gardening in pots. I just had everything potted. And then I had like my little altar. And then I think at the time I was just kind of posting about like my mum stuff and connecting with other mums. And then something just shifted. And then I thought like, fuck it. Basically, I was like, you know what have I actually got left to lose? And around that time, I lost so many of my friends and things like that. But I wouldn't say I started, I think it was candle magic. And even now I love candle magic. I don't know if it's just because I have a lot of fire in my like astrology chart, but mainly candle magic is where I kind of first started, because I mean, candles are so accessible. And back when I was a single parent and I was on, you know, I had a really tight budget back then, I had to kind of work with what I had. And it's really funny because I feel like where there's that saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And so I couldn't afford to have any oracle decks or tarot decks or anything back then. And everyone around me at that point, besides my auntie, wasn't dabbling in it really. It was like literally just me. And so I decided I've got to get creative here. So I got pieces of paper, craft paper of my son's, and I made my own oracle deck, and I'd use that. Yeah. I was like, because I couldn't afford, like, you know, back then I was like, I have to pay the bills. I can't afford to like, you know, go off and buy an oracle deck or something. I'm just going to make one. So awesome. I just connected with spirit, made my own oracle deck. And that's how I kind of just started connecting that way. And then I started, you know, expanding my crystal collection. And my sister at the time was buying me heaps of crystals and things like that. She's like, this one's good for this one's good for this. So it really kind of expanded through that. But yeah, like candles was like so easy for me to buy. And then I just made my own oracle deck. And then it just kind of expanded from there. And also just using like the herbs and stuff in my kitchen that I had access to. So I started off really, really basic, like the most basic things. And then over time, my business kind of started like taking off. That's when I started doing like mediumship readings and things like that. And I was still just kind of dabbling with witchcraft on the side. So at that point, I wasn't out of like the witchy closet. Like I still hadn't really talked about it. I was just talking about spirituality and things like that. And then when was it? It was actually last year. So I kind of started talking about a little bit over the last like 3 years. And then it was last year when I lost my Instagram account that I was like, this is the universe telling me it's time for this new beginning. I can either sit here and cry about it for a few more days, or I can cry about it, decide this is time for a new beginning and move in a new direction. And that's exactly what I did. And looking back now, I'm like, wow, that was such a pivotal point in my practice that I just didn't even realize at the time. And that's, I suppose, when I officially came out of like the full witchy closet. I was like, I'm just going to go ham now. I'm just going to like say and,
This is who I am.
talk about it. Yeah. And express myself in that version of myself. And I knew that there was going to be some people who weren't ready to accept that title, because I think witch still has a very negative connotation to it,
Yeah,
which I think
it
is really
does.
sad. Yeah. Anyway, that's kind of where I hope that made sense.
No,
That's
totally, it did. It's
okay.
like
Good.
I'm just like thinking through it all, because I love that you started so basic, but I think like by doing something like creating your own oracle deck, like how much power would be in that, like how personal, because we go and
Yeah.
buy a deck that someone else has created and put meaning in, and they're telling you essentially what each card means, but to be able to go and make your own, like what a cool way to do it, and what a cool way to start as well. I think by doing something so basic, it is actually so powerful. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's why I always say to people, like, you don't need all these. I mean, and we both own, shops where we stock amazing witchy things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I always say, like, if you're on a low budget, you just make it work. Like, you just do
Totally.
anything. You just work with what you have, and you get creative. And I
Well,
actually
you
think
think
that's where you
back to
learn the
old
most.
witches, they didn't go, I'm just going to quickly pop down to the local witchy store and buy stuff. They were like, I've got rocks and herbs that I found in a bush, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, I have to work with what I've got. And like with the Oracle deck, I was like, I want to make it like colorful and then correlate the meanings to the colors. Like, I just honestly went totally ham. I was like, we'll see how this goes. And I still actually have it. I still have it. It's like tucked away, because I was like, I'm going to look back on that one day and go, wow, I really believed in myself. I believed that, this was the direction I was going to go in at some point.
How far you've come from there as well.
Oh yeah, I know, which is crazy. It's crazy even just to see how fast it can change. Like, this happened, my youngest is 6 now. And when I first started, doing that, he was about 8 months old.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, oh, that's a long time. But at the same time, it's like actually not a long time.
No, it goes so fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when did you discover then that you were a medium or psychic? Was that again something that's always been, or when did you really start to like dive more into that?
I always knew I was. But again, obviously I grew up with, atheist family members and things like that. So for a while there, I always got told it was like imaginary friends. And then I started saying weird stuff at school, and I realized, okay, I'm going to be like the weird kid if I keep doing that. And I was like, I already have red hair, and, now it's like cool to have red hair. But back then it was like not cool. So I was like, I have red hair. I can't be too much weirder than having red hair. So I've got to choose something. Like, I've got to choose something. So I chose, okay, I'm going to be the weirdo with the red hair. So I kind of, I mean, I don't think you ever fully shut off mediumship. I think it's always there. And yeah, I would say weird things, and I realized like I can't keep doing that. And
what kind of weird things would you say?
So I would like bring up things about like their family members and things like that, then I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have said that, because I could feel the presence of the family members around. So I'd say like, oh, your nan said like, remember, blah, 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 blah. And then they'd be like, what the hell? Like, and some people would be like, that's so cool. How do you know that? And I'd be like, oh, I'm just guessing. I was never just guessing. I could feel it, or I could see it, or I could, because sometimes it plays like a movie in my head and it just like transpires. And sometimes I like can fully see them. It really depends on the spirit, because just like humans, spirits are unique in themselves. So they all come through in different ways. So you've got to be like super open to that. And as a child, our brain and our imagination is so big. It's not shut off yet. So back then it was like so expansive. So as I developed through my mediumship, I realized I had to do what I was doing when I was a child. I had to, which was like inner child healing at the same time as well. I had to expand my imagination and let spirit come in however they kind of wanted to. So then it got to about high school, and I realized like I could feel it coming back in again. And it always comes in when I'm in really hard places in my life. That's when I start, it's like kind of, it feels like a nudge. Sometimes it felt like a huge push, and I'd be like, I'm not doing that. I don't want to do it. So I kept shutting off. And then it was when I broke up with my partner at the time through that relationship. Right before we broke up though, spirit was showing me like all these visions of all the bad things that were happening, and they basically were like, this is what's going to happen if you stay, and this is what's going to happen if you leave. Like, it's up to you which one you choose. And I always say with spirit, they can guide you, but they can't tell you what to do, because you're a sovereign being at the end of the day. Like, it's up to you. We have free will for a reason. So I was like, okay, this is like the final, I need to leave. And then it kind of started coming in from there. And then I accidentally read someone at the gym at the time and things like that. But when I was little, I always sensed that spirit was around. So I would like talk to them all the time. And my mum would just say, oh, she's just got lots of imaginary friends. Oh, you just play on your own for hours. I was never playing on my own, but I was like, okay. And for so long, I honestly thought they were imaginary friends. Like, I was just like, oh, that's just my imaginary friend. But like, looking back now, I'm like, that's not what that was.
No.
It was definitely spirit. But the first spirit I ever remember was a little boy, and he stuck with me right up until I was in high school. And then I kind of just stopped seeing him because I really shut it off at that point.
Yeah.
And then, as I said, when I came out of that bad relationship, it all kind of came in again. And then it was almost like, I don't want to say the word forced, because nothing's ever forced, but at the time it felt like that. So I was actually
encouraged.
Yeah. a very big encouragement. It was like, you got to do it now.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. But it's so funny because at the time I was doing my diploma of fitness. I was going to be a PT because I love, physical health and things. I love all health related stuff. So at the time I was doing my diploma of fitness, I was already a hairdresser before that. I didn't want to do that anymore. And then, I studied my diploma of fitness, and then I was still dabbling with, spirituality and witchcraft on the side. It was more like, I guess, like a hobby for me at the time.
Yeah.
Something that kind of grounded me. Looking back now, I realized I would make myself get through all this study, and then I'd get to the end of the day and go, oh, I can do all this. Yeah. Looking back now, I realized that was already a sign. But at the time, I just was like, I'm not ready.
It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah. And then, as I said, I read someone at the gym, and then it just kind of like, and then I got messages on Facebook about it. And then I was like, oh, I don't know about this. So I started just doing psychic readings.
Yeah.
And it helped me pay for my diploma of fitness at the time. So I was like, this is amazing. It's helping me pay for this course. And I was just like enjoying. I was like, this is really fun. And then the psychic stuff quickly turned into mediumship stuff. And then I realized this is turning into mediumship, not just psychic stuff. And I realized that a lot of the time I would be too scared to say, oh, I'm getting this person coming through, because I just didn't know if I was even ready for that. And then
it's a very personal thing.
Yeah, right. Like, how do you tell someone, oh, I know all this deep personal information about you? Like, it's pretty full on when they've just booked in for a psychic reading.
Yeah.
So I just kind of was like, I'm just going to go for it. And then again, it just kind of transpired. It was like a domino effect, really. Like, looking back, it was like a domino effect. And then all my readings pretty much just turned into mediumship. So the psychic stuff would come through, but it was through their loved ones, not through like the actual psychic side of myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And you have a cool story about how you knew you were going to get engaged.
Yeah, I know. It's so funny. So a lot of the time my spirit team will come through in my dreams and things like that. Sometimes it'll just come through when I'm driving the car, which to me is like a form of meditation, because I'm concentrating. I'm not thinking about everything else. So it'll come in then. Same with the shower. The shower is a really good place for meditation, because you're just kind of like cleansing yourself.
So many things come through on the shower.
Right. Yeah. I call them shower. I have a journal called Shower Thoughts, where I write down all these amazing ideas that I'll never, ever do. But at least it's out of my head. So I'm like, it's not in my head anymore. My notes app is ridiculous. Like, I have all the shower thoughts in my notes app on my phone. But so it came through in a dream. And I mean, we talked about it. We talked about it for a while, but I didn't know when it was going to happen. And then I got the exact date, and it was actually my friend's, like one of my best friend's birthdays, Mel. She'll probably listen to this. So it was actually her birthday that day. And I was like, I'm getting engaged on your birthday. She's like, I was like, I know. And I dreamt, like, obviously I dreamt the color of the ring, and I knew what it was going to look like. And I actually have it all written down, because I was like, I'm going to look back on this one day. And part of me is like, wonder why spirit told me those exact dates, because sometimes they won't, sometimes they will. And I think that they told me that because obviously at the time we were trying to conceive, and, there was a lot of like sadness around that, the fact that it wasn't kind of transpiring yet. And I think Spirit was like, we got to give you something to be excited about.
Yeah, something good is coming.
Yeah. So it was nice. And then they're like, oh, I've got this weekend booked away. And I was like, yeah, it's going to happen now. And it's so funny because we had a weekend booked months prior to that. And we went away and I thought it was going to happen then and it didn't.
Yeah.
So I was like, so I knew it was coming. And then
Mhm.
turns out we got engaged at the place where we went to prior to that. So I was kind of close to the ballpark there.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but I honestly think that's why they gave me that date, because they just knew I needed something to be like excited
Lift your
about.
spirits.
Yeah.
Did you tell your partner?
I said I had a vague idea after. I didn't tell him exactly, but he doesn't have
That's
TikTok.
so
So
funny.
the day he has TikTok, he's going to look back and go, oh, you knew everything. Yeah, and I told the TikTok community before I told you I knew.
That's so funny.
He doesn't have it. He uses YouTube Shorts. I know. I was like, really? And then I realized how many people actually watch YouTube Shorts. And I was like,
I
oh,
know,
okay.
it's like a whole thing now.
Yeah.
I'm not on.
No, I put a couple of things on there every now and then, but like I'm not very.
Too many things.
Too many apps, right? Right.
Oh,
Oh, it's too many apps. I'm like, and I don't want to like recycle the content too much because then that's not fun.
Point?
Yeah.
I know. I'm
Right.
the same.
We need some body doubles.
I always say, pretty much every day, I'm like, I need more me's. I need more me's to do my things for me.
Yeah.
But no one else can do it. Just
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
So you have mentioned that you have ADHD.
Mhm.
And I would love to know, how have you embraced that so that it kind of enhances your magical practice rather than disadvantages it? Because it could go both ways, but how are you able to kind of like mesh it in to make it all work together?
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes, obviously, there's a lot of negative connotations to having ADHD.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes there'll be something I love and then I don't follow through with it. Or I might be like too tired by the end of the day. And then, if I wasn't a parent, I would have all this time. But because I've got to give my energy to my kids and things like that as my priority.
Yeah.
And sometimes it means like other parts of my practice can lack, especially if I'm in that ADHD burnout. So there's like obviously the negative connotations to that, which is definitely hard. I'm still very much kind of navigating around. But I know the signs now of when the burnout's coming, and I'm like, oh, it's coming. I know it's coming. So that means I've got to back right off. And Spirit kind of like does things. So it'll make things stop. So for instance, like, something will stop working, or something will get in the way, or another one is, which probably sounds superstitious, but I really believe in this one. When when you're like really manic and you're like, like rushed and you're, just irritated, right? And then your clothes get stuck on the door and you're like, oh, that's my fucking final thing today, or I'm done with today. You know those moments?
Like the seatbelt can't come out.
Yes. I'm looking like, I'm like, that is literally Spirit intervening with us, telling us you need to slow down. You need to, like, you're on the brink of burnout, and we all experience burnout. And things like that. So whenever I start doing that, I know it's my Spirit team telling me, hey, we're telling you, because I'm very stubborn and I don't like to listen like to my body cues at times, which that's on me, and that's something I have to work on. So they'll tell me instead, and I'm like, okay, I hear you loud and clear. I can feel it coming. But the positives of ADHD is like, I get all these amazing creative ideas, which obviously the negative of that is there's too many creative ideas. So I'm like, oh God, I've got to be grounded with this. What one should take my priority? I can't do all of them. I've got to do one thing at a time. So that's another thing I've navigated around. But like the positive of that is, all these creative ideas, and which is really cool because it means like within my craft, like, because I personally can't do one thing and then do that one thing all the time. To me, that's so tedious. It's so boring. And I believe that witchcraft should be fun. And it shouldn't feel like a burden or something you have to do. If I think I have to do something, I'm not doing it, because it means I'm not enjoying it and I'm not in that present moment. So there's that kind of thing that I've got to navigate around. I'm trying to think. Oh, another thing with ADHD is like with meditation and things like that, I have to do mine in a very different way. So I can't sit down and go, that does not work for me. It never has. Sometimes it can, but a lot of the times no, because I have so many racing thoughts. It's not just like a normal person. Oh, I've got a few thoughts here and there. It's like 1,000 thoughts at once. It's like an open browser speaking of, my browser's probably like 20 things long right now. I hold on to it for dear life. And if the boys get out of the tabs, I'm like, man, I forgive you, because I probably didn't need those tabs open, because I just leave them there just in case. I kind of stop you don't even want, you know how you get, do you know, I didn't know there was a limit. I'm just going to go off topic here.
No, go.
I didn't know that there was a limitation on how many tabs you could have open on your phone until I ran out of tabs. I had 500 tabs open.
Stop.
Yeah, I'm not even exaggerating. I'm actually being serious. That's so bad. And I said to Nate, that proves how many ideas I get all at once. And I have to like, that should have been another wake up call. Hannah, hello, that's 500 tabs. What are you doing with that? At this point, I think I'm going to have to like clear all of them, because
and you have to sit there and go through them one by one. That's your punishment.
I know. Damn, why do I do that to myself? Self-sabotage. But where was I going with this? Oh yeah, meditation. That's right.
Yes.
See, this is another thing with my ADHD. I go off on little tangents, and then I'm like, what was I talking about? Ugh, I'm working on that. I'm trying to navigate through that too. There's a lot of things I'm navigating through with my ADHD. I'm in the beginner stages of it still. But yeah, so like active meditation for me. So my garden, like that's like one of my big altars for me. It's where I do a lot of my practices, because I like being outside. Yep. It grounds me with my ADHD. I recommend anyone who has ADHD to do, you know, nature walks, gardening, anything like that. The downside to gardening with ADHD is sometimes you'll forget that you have seedlings growing. I've done that about 3 times now. I'm like, oh no, they're dead. I'm so sorry. I forgot about you. They've got to be right in front of me or I'll forget. But like gardening has just been so amazing. So like for me, I said to Nathan, like, this is like my altar, because I'm setting my intentions when I'm planting the flowers and the vegetables and things like that. Yeah.
Intention in.
Yes. And on new moons, when I'm setting my intentions, I put them on like, you know, pieces of paper that I know will compost, and I'll actually bury it in my garden. So I'm watering it. I'm watering the manifestations.
I love that.
I know, right? It's like my favorite way of manifesting is in my garden. And I have like crystals in my garden and things like that, which I've got to be careful, because if my dog goes in there, he's like, that looks like a nice rock. I'm going to try and eat that. Yeah. So I've got, I put up all these fences. I don't know if it's working yet. Sophie hasn't gone in 2 days though. So I think it's working. The makeshift fences, they look terrible, but you know, it's working.
Understand.
Right. I'm like, it's working for now. It's fine. Yeah. But yeah, so like my garden is like a really good place for me, like with my practice. It's also a really good place for me to ground myself. So as I said before, I recommend anyone who has ADHD, you know, you don't even have to have a big garden to garden. You just do little pots and things, like you just get creative with it. I think a lot of people, I mean, the ideal scenario is to have like a beautiful big garden and be self-sustainable and, you know, be able to get all my stuff.
Realistic.
No, it's not realistic. And I realize how much of a privilege that is to be out. Like, I can't wait for that day where I have this big lot of land and all of that and look back and go, this is actual privilege. Whereas I think that when you have that, you don't realize that. Even now I'm like, have to reflect and go, I have this beautiful house and my kids have their own rooms, and I have I have an office for my witchy stuff now. I have altars everywhere. I have a partner who like just loves it. Like, he's like, what are you doing today? Like, he just loves it. He's like, wants to get into it. I'm like, okay, I'm still the number 1 witch in this house, but he's like,
touch my stuff.
Yeah. He's like, I'm coming for you. I'm going to be the best witch in this house. Okay, fair enough.
As a Leo, I take that very, very offensively.
Right. I take it very seriously. So funny. The other day I was like, he's like, do you have any bay leaves? I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm not telling you what I'm doing. It's a secret. I can't tell you. And I was like, okay, superstitious. And then he was like, I'm not superstitious. I forgot what he said. But anyway, he was like riding on a bay leaf. And I was like, oh, I've taught you well. I've taught you well.
Well done.
So funny. Yeah. But that's probably where my ADHD, I would say, is, I guess, the positive side of that is the fact that I get all these creative ideas. And I've learned that with ADHD, like, you know, if you incorporate nature into your practices and things like that, it actually will help the ADHD.
Yeah. Well, nature in itself has so many healing properties, like grounding alone. It's like a scientific thing, which I think people need to read more of, because it does like anti-inflammatory. It's good for anxiety. It's good, obviously, for grounding. It's good for focus. It's good for your heart. Like nature is there for a
Mm.
reason. Like obviously it
Yeah.
keeps us alive, but I think by incorporating it into your life, you learn, like, if you work with it, it's going to benefit you in so
Yeah.
many ways, which actually goes in with my next question, because I know that
Mm.
you are a green witch.
Mm.
How do you incorporate that into your life? So obviously your garden is your big thing.
Yeah.
What other ways, like what's your favorite green witch kind of practice that you do?
Hey everyone, I'm just going to pause today's episode for a moment. I hope you're enjoying it. It sounds super interesting. If you're enjoying this podcast and you're thinking, hey, how could I support this show? Then the best way to do that is to jump over to Patreon and become one of my patrons, where you'll get access to additional content, videos, bonus episodes of Ritual with Amy Harvey, that is me, learning tools to help you on your witchy path, and special discounts to my online store, rosethorncottage.com. Take it away, voiceover guy.
That's right, simply head to patreon.com/Rosethorn Cottage to get all the goodies and support your favourite podcast in the entire world, Ritual with Amy Harvey. Now, back to the show.
Good. Again, it would depend around my cycle. So obviously I personally like to incorporate, and I will say this, not every herbalist is a witch. Like, I think it's really important to say that, because, they can be very separate. For me, they're very much together, but I know that they can be also very separate, because I think a lot of people see a herbalist like, oh, you're a witch. It's like, oh, well, not necessarily. Like, a witch is a title that you feel you want to have.
Maybe back in the day when they burned the people that said they were a herbalist.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
not today.
Exactly. Not today. So I like to incorporate like herbalism in with my witchcraft. So obviously the witchcraft side of it is like I'm planning my intentions and in my garden and things like that. And then I'll pick it and then I'll use it in the herbalistic way. So for me personally, like, and you even think about, this is what I find so fascinating, how witchcraft, as much as it's esoteric and, and all of that sort of stuff, but it can also be super practical. So you think of like rosemary, right? Rosemary is like this beautiful, it's one of my favorite herbs to work with. I just love rosemary. And it's so easy to grow. You can literally grow. I personally think it's super easy to grow. I say that as I found a rosemary bush the other day that I've killed. So maybe not, if I'm being honest. I'm still a beginner gardener.
So you're a murderer, is what you're trying to say. You're a murderer.
Don't say that. Well, I'm so sorry. Rest in peace, rosemary. But like, you think of like, rosemary being, like you said, like antibacterial, anti-inflammatory, like it's so amazing, right? It's a purifier. And then you think in the witchcraft sense, we use it to cleanse the house and purify the house. So it's like the practical side of rosemary. And
together.
Yeah. Like humming. I'm just like, I could nerd out on that for days, because I'm like, this is fascinating. It's so fascinating how it like they just encompass one another. It's just amazing.
It's
so
like people go when they're sick, they go, I need to have some like honey and ginger and lemon and like Because witch, you go, that makes sense, because weirdly they all make you healthy. They cleanse away the bad things. They burn your body.
Yes. Exactly right. I'm like, oh, interesting. It's so funny how people do witchy things, and I'm like, you don't even know why you're doing that.
Like blowing out a candle on your birthday.
Yeah. Yes. And making a wish on it. I'm like, okay, witch.
Yeah, exactly. Even like a Christmas tree, you go, the pagan thing.
Right.
We're all doing it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I know. And I think the thing that I find annoying about this, and I think you touched on this in your TikTok the other day about Yule coming up.
Yeah.
It's so hard for us Southern Hemispheres to like, I love celebrating the Sabbats, but they're not. Oh, it's so hard sometimes, because like, I mean, I'm saying that though, my partner said the other day, we should do like Christmas in July. Right. And I was like, I do know where that comes from. And then I told him, and I was like, technically Yule's in June, but that's where the Christmas in July thing kind of happens, because it's like we're trying so hard to incorporate, it's just a whole thing. Even like
they're all off.
They're all off.
Like you look at Halloween and you go, I love Beltane, but I also love Halloween, not Samhain, like Halloween. And so I'm like so torn, because I'm like, I don't know how to decorate my house. I want
Right,
flowers everywhere, but I
right.
also want dead things and pumpkins. It doesn't work together.
Yeah,
So
it doesn't work.
the North, they can just like casually cruise through life where everything makes sense. We're down
Yeah.
here going, no, I don't want to celebrate Letha at Christmas. I want Christmas trees, and like
Yes, right?
it's
Oh,
all over the place.
it's so hard. I'm the same. My kids love Halloween, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this makes no sense.
I
This makes
know.
no sense to me. But the same goes. So there's like, we decorate a one room that's like Halloween, and then the rest of the house, it's Beltane. I'm sorry,
Really?
because Beltane's my favorite Sabbath. I'm like, no, it's
So
my favorite,
fun. I
which is
do
hard.
Beltane on November 1st. So I'm like,
Oh,
Halloween
that's
is
a good
October
idea.
31st, and then it's gone, and then
Yeah.
boom, it's Beltane the next day, and we don't speak of Halloween. It's only Beltane.
Maybe I need to take a page out of your book. That's a good idea. I
Because
think I'm
then
going to
it's
do that.
like October, November, they're completely separate, even though
Yeah.
it's obviously like within hours of each other.
Mm,
You go, it doesn't matter. They're different.
mm,
They're not associated with each other.
mm.
And you can enjoy both.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've gone off topic with my question there, but
I didn't even know
hopefully,
what my question was.
yeah, no,
It doesn't
same.
matter. Okay, so you do have kids. So do
Yeah.
you involve your kids in your practice and your partner as well? Or do you keep them separate? Or do you kind of like, if you want to like come in, you can, whatever?
Yeah, I kind of just roll with it. So if I feel like I want it to be an individual thing, I'll say that to my family. I'm like, okay, this is a boundary for me. And like, in our house, we're very much about boundaries, it being like
Same.
boundaries. Yeah, boundaries come from a place of love. They come from a place of respect, so that
So
that
mummy
person
doesn't go crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But then other times I'll involve them in it. And then other times they'll actually come to me and say, I need help with this. Like my eldest, he's like, I want to place really high with this. What can I do? Okay. In a practical way, you need to learn about it. Okay. That's really important. But I'll also help you with the witchy stuff. So like you can use the energy on your side, because that's what you want to do. Right.
Yeah.
And I always teach them, like, you have to have the practical side of it, and then you can incorporate the witchy stuff, because if they go hand in hand with one another. As much as I love, I could be super airy fairy and all that. At the end of the day, I'm like, okay, this isn't going to work if I'm not actually being grounded in it and being like actually honest with myself and honoring that human experience as well. Like, not just like, so spiritual, like, and being all up in like the higher chakras. It's also so important to use those lower ones and honor that being human is a gift, and that's how you can express the spiritual side of yourself, through being human.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try and like teach my kids that in particular, because I don't want them to think, oh, my mum's just like this. I love that my son said I'm so powerful. I'm like, look, I love that. I think that's so beautiful that I love that for me. But at the same time, there's the power comes from a lot of other things behind that.
Yeah.
So it really depends. I will involve the kids. They like to do like their little full moon things and like their new moon things and things like that. And my partner dabbles occasionally. So sometimes I'll say, like, he likes to he's very solitary with his like witchy stuff. He kind of like, yeah, he is. He is. Like when we got engaged, I was like, what are you doing there? And he's like, I'm making a love spell. And I was like, I feel like you need my intention for that. And he's like, okay, you can put one thing in there. One thing.
First mistake.
Yes. I was like, okay then. He's like, let me do it. But like, he was like, what ones would I use? So I basically did it. I just let him think he did it. I was like, okay. So it's really cute though. I was like, well, it's really special that he wants to. And when we got engaged, I came back and he'd made this like big altar of like crystals and flowers everywhere. It was so beautiful. I'm like, so I feel like so lucky that I have someone in my life who like goes and tells me, yeah, my partner's a witch. Like, he's really proud of that, which makes me even prouder to have that title. Like, I actually love that he, which is so funny, because when we first met each other, there was that slight skepticism of everything that I did. And then over time, I think he realized, like, I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, skepticism is an important aspect as well, of course.
You can see it as like curiosity,
Yeah. Yeah. And I said, it's fine that you feel that way. And then over time, he just kind of like, there's no really level of skepticism at all anymore, like at all. So
I
yeah,
think that's really important, because I have a lot of people who message me who basically, like what you were saying in your previous relationship, where you have
yeah.
someone that's just not on board
Mm.
with your beliefs, and they either like they're just not welcome, so they have to either hide what they're doing, or they get ridiculed for it, or
Mm.
judged, or whatever. And I think having somebody that can support you, even if they're not involved, I think
Yeah.
even just like acknowledging it and supporting you, and like saying like, good for you. Like if that's what makes you feel whole and happy and fulfilled, then like you should totally do it, is something that people need to understand is not something that's like you're lucky to have. It's what you deserve. Like everybody
Yeah.
deserves to have that support. And you shouldn't tolerate people that don't support you in that, or
Yeah.
aren't happy for you, even if they disagree. I think there needs to be that boundary and that expectation of like, this is what I should have, and you should
Yeah.
support me as my partner. It should
Yes.
just be that way,
Definitely 100%. And he's even had people in his life who have actually like poked and laughed at the stuff that I do. And he's
Really.
actually, which I'm like, like water for ducks back to me personally. I'm like, okay, well, I'm thriving, so I'm not really embarrassed that you think I'm not, because okay. But he like stuck up for me. He was like, how dare you? Like, first of all, like, because they made like, I think they made fun of like crystals. They're like, made fun of that. Also, I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said like they kind of prodded at that. And I said to Nate, like, don't, like, he stuck up for me. He's like, no, that's not okay. And I was like, just like let them think what they want to think. It's like their perception at the end of the day. And like that's I don't need to prove myself. I love that you like, wanted to voice that for me, but like you don't need to prove me to others either.
No.
I was like, well, we're the ones that are thriving riding on bay leaves. So
like you guys.
Right. I'm like, just say go off, King. Like, it's fine. Don't even worry about it. But yeah, I agree. And it's crazy how I think that's what holds a lot of people back from that holding that witch title is the stigma that comes behind that still. Yeah. And even like how we were saying the other day, how I was saying like, there's like a lighter side to witchcraft and a darker side of witchcraft. And it's funny how everyone's perceptions of witchcraft is so different. Like some people, when they hear witch, they think of only one thing. And I'm like, a witch is many things.
So many things. There's like a million different paths you can choose, and how you can express yourself as a witch. Some people don't even like call themselves that. They call themselves like pagan or something else, but they're technically all the same thing. I think it's like it's such a personal like path and decision of how you go about your life, that the way, that's where I have no tolerance for judgment on that. I'm like, no, you don't get to tell me that I'm wrong and you're right just because you read this book and I read a different book. Like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. It makes sense to me.
Yes.
So bye.
Yeah. And it's so sad. It happens so much in the witch community, like which obviously we both talked about. And it's so sad because I'm like, witchcraft is for everyone. And I think if we just like, stopped putting so much judgment, like you said, on other people for how they do their practices, like the amount of times I've had videos go viral on TikTok and had people say, that's not how you do it. And I'm like, that's how I do it. And I'm honoring that you feel how you feel, like you're entitled to your opinions, but I'm also entitled to mine. And also you just need to remember that you're commenting on my account. It's my page. Yeah, right. It's like, that's my space. Exactly. And that's a sacred space for me, that I get to expand and share parts of my, my life, my practice. Like, no one's entitled to know things about other people's lives. It's dependent on that person. But yeah, I see it a lot, and it sucks because it makes you kind of like, I mean, for me personally, it makes me want to pull away and I guess, not share too much. It's why I don't share every single part of my practice. I don't share every ritual I do because I just don't want people picking at it. I'm like, I don't need that. No. And it's not empowering, but it's really sad. And I hate to say it, but it's getting worse. I've noticed like it's getting worse.
It's
Yeah.
funny because my next question was actually about social media, and do you
Mm,
think it is a positive or a negative as like personally and then
mm,
as a witch? And I think that I have noticed that it is increasingly becoming more judgy or
mm,
negative or whatever it wants to be. Um, but one thing I've learned, and I used to get so hung up, like if someone wrote something mean to me, I'd be, oh my God, my life is over. Why am I doing this? I'm the worst
yeah.
witch in the world. And now I'm literally like, block, bye,
Yes.
delete.
Right.
Like, I'm like, you are on my
Yeah.
page.
You just
You are
start to
insulting
become.
me. And the block button is a powerful protection tool, and I'm going to use it. So goodbye.
Mhm.
You don't get to come on
100%.
here and like you can question me, but you don't have to be a dick about it. I can
Yes.
have a conversation. And I think
Yes.
if you set those boundaries, it kind of just like steers your way through the bullshit.
Oh, 100%. And I feel like there's so many conversations I see on there that I'm like, that should have been a private conversation.
I
Like,
know.
what happened to that? I feel like this calling out culture that we have nowadays, I actually don't think it's empowering. I think it's
Not.
disempowering. And even like holding people accountable, even that I just don't think is empowering. First of all, we're not letting people make mistakes. If they're making
No.
mistakes over and over and they're not caring, 100%, that's where accountability can come into play. But if it's a little mistake and someone's like, oh, I didn't know that, if you're going to actually like come for them, that's like, for me, it says a lot about that person's character if they need to make everything so public. I'm like, what part of you is trying to validate your existence through the diminishing of another person's existence? Like, I don't back that. I think it's unkind. It's not compassionate. It's not allowing people to, like make mistakes or learn from anything. And like, that's the beauty of life.
Human.
Right. Yeah. It's why we came to Earth in the first place, so that we could experience life and expand, make mistakes sometimes, many times, and learn from that. We're not here to just have amazing, fun experiences. We're here for every experience. And yeah, I just feel like a lot of the time those spaces just don't, and that community, to me, that's not community to me.
No.
And it's sad because it makes you feel like I've become so selective of, who I allow into my life now, but also what I allow to even show online, because, you're going to have people who are going to have opinions on what you're doing. And like, that's whatever, that's fair. I have opinions too. But yeah, there's a difference between having an opinion and being an asshole. Like, I'm like, there's a huge difference.
100%.
Yes. And I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing, it's like multiple videos about it. It's lives. They're like doing it on lives now. And I'm like, look, at some point, have you actually sat back and like grounded yourself and thought like, should this be a private conversation? Like, I think this should be a private conversation, and you can hold accountability to someone in a compassionate way. And if they decide to react negatively to the way that you're expressing something that's concerning you, then that's when you go, okay, I've tried to talk nicely to you about it. Now I feel, this, you know what I mean? Like, but it should always start as a private conversation.
I think so too. And I think just because you start a sentence with no offense, it doesn't give you permission to be a complete asshole and say whatever you want. Like, you can actually be a good person and say something in a constructive way where the person might like learn from, rather than just like cutting them down as a person. Because at the end of the day, I go, that just makes you look like you're so insecure that the only way you can feel any power is by making somebody else feel like shit. And that's not my problem.
Exactly.
Really isn't.
Yeah. And even the entitlement of people who, so like you have a video and it might go like semi-viral or viral. I find a lot of the time it's people who aren't following me or aren't in my community that do it. Who maybe have stumbled across one video and they're like, tell me, show me. I'm like, would you come up to a stranger in the street and say, show me? It's rude. Like, you don't.
Keyboard pals, man, they can do whatever they want on their little keyboards. If you actually went face to face, they'd be so gutless and just like, oh, it's fine, don't worry about it. Then don't do anything.
And I think, and I always say this, not every person who shows online is on there to be a teacher. Sometimes they just want to meet new people who do the same things as them. Sometimes, and even like you might share a ritual and someone will be like, how do you do it? And they need step-by-step instructions. And I'm like, just remember, like, first of all, that person's not getting paid.
No.
Like they're sharing things for free. So that doesn't mean that you're entitled to know exactly how that, like if I do a ritual and I show you and you're saying, I need step-by-step instructions. Like, well, no, that's a personal ritual. I was just I'm showing you to inspire you to do something for yourself. Like, of course, I can give you like little, maybe do this or read this book or listen to this podcast. Like, there's so many other people on apps that show and give information for free that I think it's so important that we realize that not everyone on there wants to be a teacher.
No.
Like I actually have to shut off my DMs. I think I've done it now, but I don't know because I think people can still send me DMs on TikTok. But like sometimes I can't even answer them because all the comments or like I try my best, but I think people need to also remember like that's one person. And like I can't answer, like I get a lot of health questions because I'm a green witch and I share like, little things that I do to support like my family. And I'm like, I can't tell you to do that because first of all, I don't actually have a certification behind me to help you. Like, and I'm not a doctor. Like I can't give you all the answers. Oh, yeah, I don't know. I think I struggle with social media with that. And again, one thing I've decided to do is around my cycle is to show up on social media only when I'm in the follicular and the ovulation phase of my cycle.
Yeah, right.
I show up a lot then. So I might make like 3 videos in a day because I feel the energy to, I feel inspired to. But then the luteal phase and the menstrual phase of my cycle, I have decided I'm going to like pull back a little bit and maybe only share things every couple of days and even like at the start of this year, I was doing daily vlogs. And this is where I was in denial. I was like, I love doing them. I think they're so fun, but they're time consuming. They're, and sometimes I don't want to record everything I'm doing in a day. Like it's just too much. So if I do a couple times a week, for me, that's really fun. I can share things. I can tell stories because I love being able to do that. But it wasn't until my partner said doing these daily vlogs every day is making you burnt out and it's taking time away from our family. And then he held me accountable to that. And he was like, you can't do this. Like, remember that I know that you love your community and you want to pour back and you want to give back to them, but you have to remember that we're also here too. And I'm really glad that he like had that conversation with me because I was like, you're right. Like I actually need to create boundaries for myself around social media. I don't have to show up every day. Like honestly, I started thinking like, fuck this algorithm. Like I'm not going to let the algorithm dictate my creativity.
Yeah.
And like just having those boundaries even with myself, because we talk about boundaries with other people, but like I guess never the boundaries that we have to have with ourselves where we're like, you're not ready to do that part of your practice yet, or I'm showing too much on social media and I need to pull back on that and things like that. Like boundaries are
life. And you know what? It's funny about the whole algorithm thing because I let it get to me so much. I swear I got shadow banned like 40 times. Like it just, anything I did, I was just boom, nothing was happening. And I was getting so aggravated. And I'm like, I'm never going to do this again. Such a Leo like response, like, my life is over. What am I doing?
Right.
And then I just went, you know what? Like, fuck it. Fuck this. I'm just going to make whatever I want. I'm going to post whenever I want. And that's it. And then it's like it's almost like that shift happens where all of a sudden things just like start to flow because you've like taken control. And I don't know if it's like from a manifesting point as well, where you're so focused on the things that aren't happening. And when you go, fuck it, I'm just going to let whatever happens. And then things just go and start to flow. And I think it's just because you've like taken that control where you're like, I'm not going to let something that doesn't really even exist control me and my mental health and what I do like throughout my day and how I see my business or myself. Like fuck that. I'm going to take control of it again. And then you see things just change.
Yeah, fully. I completely agree with you. That's like when it happened to me as well. The same thing. I was like, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Nate's called me out on it. I'm really glad he did. Even though at the time I was like, that's not right. But then I thought about it and I was like, he's right.
Yeah.
He's actually right, and I need to listen to him. Like, sometimes I do need to listen, Hannah. He's right, unfortunately, but like, he's going to listen to this and go,
right in a way.
yeah, he's going to listen to this and go, I told you. Don't say that. It's the Virgo Leo.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, yeah, it's true. And when that happens, that's usually when, you know, the people who like actually honor you and honor your boundaries and comment. Like, I love when I see the same people commenting on my stuff all the time. I'm like, I will literally die for you. Like, that's an exaggeration. But I'm like, I love you so much. Like, the fact that you've taken 2 seconds out of your day to comment on my video or say thank you so much for like sharing this, or like, it's just that, you know, it's a pat on the back to me. It's someone saying like, you're doing a great job. Because when you're a business owner and you're, you know, content creator, I don't like using those words, but essentially that's anyone that shows up online is a content creator at the end of the day. I think we're all content creators, but when someone like does it, I'm like, that actually means so much to me. Like, even a like people are just so used to scrolling. I'm like, I'm that person who, if I follow you, I will literally like everything that you put up. I am a stalker.
Trying to be good with that now, because it's just like an acknowledgement of like, yes, I know this means something, so I'm going to do it for you because I appreciate that you actually create something for me to look at for free, and that's really nice.
Yes. Yeah, it's like the most beautiful feeling, and that's the positive side to social media, right? Where you can like connect with new people, where you can make friends, where you meet people who think the way you do, who have the same values as you, who honor your boundaries, who just appreciate you for like being you. And that's like the best feeling. And I think, you know, I know that there is a lot of downsides to social media, but when you think of like the positive sides, it really keeps you like kind of
outweighs it by far.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Because I think like how lucky we are to be able to, you know, connect with new people and make new friends, like wherever we live. And even just like, and I suppose even that Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere, like just even seeing like, so obviously in the Southern Hemisphere, we're in front of the Northern Hemisphere, but watching them celebrate, like, you know, how they celebrated Beltane recently, is that correct?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. So when it comes to Beltane here, I'm going to start incorporating that, because that's really that's really fun. And I think that's, again, the positive side of social media is watching other people do their craft and going, that's really cool. I'm actually going to try that. Or someone giving a different perspective on something that you already do, and then saying like, well, I learned from you just then. Like, I've never thought about that before. Exactly. And that's like the positive side to having that community, is just having like constantly being inspired by other people.
I agree. And I think also as a witch, you think about the past and how witches were treated, how they couldn't even like speak to each other. They didn't even know. It's like they could jump on like Facebook and go, hey, anyone get burnt today? Like, you know,
exactly.
Do that. Where we are so lucky that we can literally jump on our phone and we have access to hundreds of thousands of other witches who have information for us, ideas, advice, or even simply just to go, yeah, I totally understand how you're feeling. And I think that people need to like look and embrace that part of it, not the competitive, judgmental side, but the fact that we can all like help each other out, be there and stand in like that like unity together. I think that would just make it a much more positive place. And
it's sad because I feel like that's what it originally was.
It was,
and then I don't know what happened. I'm like, I don't actually know when that happened. I think it started happening a few years ago. I noticed it changing and shifting, and it's sad because sometimes I actually get too scared to even use the hashtag witch talk, because I'm like, what For You page is this going to go on? Like, and be, I don't want to say taken the wrong way, because that's not the right way to say it, but like, I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'm just sort of like, oh, I don't like that. It feels icky to me.
It does feel a bit icky, but we can change that. We can start change. Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. Talk in private.
Okay, so we've done the morning. Do you have an evening ritual?
I like to drink tea in the evening, so I have like a sleepy time tea, and when I drink that, I know my intention behind that is like, okay, it's time to like relax.
What is the sleepy time tea that you drink?
So it depends. There is one brand that I like. It's got a little bird on it. I can't think of it right now though. It's got a bird on it.
Yeah.
If you're in Australia, you would know the exact one I'm probably talking about. I love that my brain's decided to forget all of a sudden. But sometimes I'll also make my own up. So it really will depend, again, where I am in my cycle. So when I'm in my luteal phase of my cycle, I drink red raspberry leaf and nettle because nettle is like full of iron.
It's so good.
Oh, it's so good, yeah. And the red raspberry leaf obviously helps with that. And because I have endometriosis, the luteal, and I have PMDD. So like the luteal phase for me is like a night. I hate luteal phase of my cycle. I hate it. I'm trying to make friends with it, but I still very much struggle in that phase. I'm like, okay, be compassionate with myself. And that's also the phase of my cycle where I tend to actually not really do much of my practices. So again, like I said before, it'll change. But a nighttime ritual for me is like, always my tea. So it might be like chamomile, might be lavender. Of course, you have to have food grade of versions of those. So I thought I would just say that out loud. Like, make sure it's food grade. Yeah. Make sure you're getting it from the right people. So yeah, like there's depends on the tea and things like that. What's my favorite at the moment? Oh, the sleepy time one actually has licorice in it, which I think it's licorice, or maybe it might be fennel. It might be fennel. I don't know. Some sleepy time ones have licorice.
Yeah.
So if you have endo, I would just say just to be really wary of that, because licorice root is known to boost estrogen. And estrogen, obviously, if you have endo, it's already an overload, so it can actually make that a lot worse. Yeah, so if you have endo, always try and avoid licorice root too much, even though licorice root's really good for the adrenals, so it's really good for like if you're stressed. But if you already have an overrun of estrogen, just be really careful with that. So I would suggest having that maybe towards the follicular phase of your cycle, because that's when it's not too bad. Whereas like I would never recommend having licorice root personally at the second part of your cycle, because you already got a lot of the testosterone
to deal with.
Yeah, the testosterone goes up around the ovulation phase and then it dips down. And the progesterone also goes up. So the progesterone is what actually makes you stay pregnant. And as soon as the eggs, not fertilized like a little chicken, we're little chickens. I'll just hatch my egg today. I literally said it to my partner. I hatched my egg today. So tomorrow I'm going to feel like shit, just warning you. Like I'm in my chicken. Yeah, like, oh, I'm about to hatch an egg right now. I can tell. So funny. But like, yeah, so like the progesterone goes up and then it goes down, and then your estrogen is like just like high key there, which is why we get so moody and things like that. Like I could talk about that for days. I find it fascinating. Anyway, so licorice root, I would avoid obviously the second part of your cycle. The first part of your cycle is a bit better. If you have endo, I would avoid it altogether. So yeah, it's like tea, depending on what I want to call in. So for instance, if I want a cleansing kind of energy, I would use things like lemon balm, even just a lemon itself. You could have lemon and honey, like that's a really good tea in itself. Things like that. Passion flower is really good for like stress and things like that as well. I'm trying to think of like the metaphysical part of passion flower. I can't think of it off the top of my head. But yeah, so you can even use like teas to incorporate things. So if I feel like I need a bit more self-love and I want to call that in, I would drink rose petals. Which rose petals are actually really beautiful to drink, especially with honey.
Nice.
Oh yeah, that's a good one actually. A good self-love spell through tea would be rose petals, cinnamon, honey.
Ooh, I love that.
I know. I literally, that sounds so good. I'm actually going to try that later.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then like abundance, you could use chamomile. So you go chamomile tea and you set the intention for abundance. Like just like get creative with it. Yeah. I know. I love tea. So there's that. And then I do like my shower meditation. So like I get in the shower, I might put candles on. I might put like sound bowl healing on, or like a meditation. Sometimes I just don't do any of those things. I just have a shower and I just imagine like the water kind of cleansing me. And you can obviously put water safe crystals in the bottom of your shower. So you can do that as well. And then other times I might have like a spiritual bath. So I get really creative like with what I put in the bath. I love doing that. The other day I used coconut milk. Made my skin
I want to
so
try
soft.
that because of you.
Yeah. And it was a 95-cent tin of coconut milk just from the supermarket. And you put it in the bath and you put some like rose petals in there. And it smells amazing. And it makes your skin so
like you're
soft.
bathing in a pina colada.
Yeah. Yeah, which is so funny because my dog's trying to drink the water and I was like, get out of it. Get out of it. And coconut's really good for spiritual connection. So you know,
That's really
especially
cool.
yeah. So this would actually be this would be the best bath one to do if you have a bath, would be those couple of days before you menstruate, right? You would do the coconut bath. So that's the time in the luteal phase, right near the end, where you're the most spiritually connected.
Yeah.
So that's the time where I tend to do a lot of divination. So the end part of my luteal phase, right before I'm about to get my period, I'll do divination because it's when I feel the most connected to spirit and myself. And then you could use things like coconut obviously is really good for spiritual connection, blue lily, but obviously avoid that if you're pregnant. Things like that. Like, so you see how I'm saying like my practice really revolves around my cycle a lot of the time. And when I ovulate, it's when I would do like a lot of abundance workings and things like a new beginning thing. So if I want to start something new, I'm going to start it when I'm ovulating or on the new moon.
I love that. I love how you use your cycle. You've inspired me to.
It's really fun. It's actually really, really fun. Yeah, it's really fun. And it really just connects you deeply to yourself. And I think when we connect deeply to ourselves, we're connecting deeply to others a lot better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Female energy.
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%. It's I don't know. It's really beautiful. I really love doing that. That's why I always said to Nathan, I'm like, I need a daughter so I can like teach her all this. Like I'm manifesting that. I'm like, come on, I can feel this little girl energy and she's so close. And I'm like, just drop in. Let's do this. But I actually feel like they're going to end up being a water sign. So I'm kind of just like waiting for that.
That's my daughter. She's a Pisces.
That's what I feel like I'm going to get. I feel like I'm going to get a Pisces, either a Pisces sun or a Pisces moon. I don't know. There's Pisces energy in there. I can feel it.
Pisces are very interesting little creatures.
Right. And obviously Pisces. Yeah, Pisces is the end of the zodiac, right? The zodiac wheel. So they are an encompassed nature of everything. Like that's why Pisces people are usually so intuitive because, I mean, astrologers probably listening to this and being like, that's not true. This is my version of Pisces. Don't be an asshole, please. But like Pisces, to me, this is why sometimes I find Pisces energy kind of triggering because it's an encompass of every single one of the zodiac. So I'm learning so much about myself every time I meet a Pisces.
Interesting.
That Pisces energy.
Messages about that.
Yeah, it's very interesting. And then obviously Aries is that, you know, the new beginning of the zodiac wheel where that's why some people say Aries people are childish because they're the child of the zodiac technically, and I have 2 Aries children, so that's always fun. But like I love it though. I love that childlike wonder. I will say Aries people are very playful.
Yes,
so it kind of makes a lot of sense. Every Aries I've ever met, extremely playful people. I find them really fun to bounce off, so I kind of like that I have 2 Aries children, even though it's not always fun because they butt heads a lot.
Can be interesting when mixed together. Like one of my friends, Sarah, she's a witch on social media as well. She's an Aries, and we are forever like bombing at each other about who is the more superior of the fire signs. And she like gives me so much shit all the time. I'm just like, dude, I'm like the bloody lion, man. Like, you just can't compete with us. It's not my fault. You're like the bitter, angry sign. You're the bitter, angry fire sign. And you're superior.
And Aries people are so independent. They're very like leadership people. They like to take the lead, which I love that. But like you said, Leos are like that too. So sometimes it's like it's either going to work or it's not going to work.
Totally.
Yeah.
They will join forces or they will fight to the death.
Yeah. And it's hard because both my boys, obviously being Aries, are very much like that. But then their moon signs comes into play because they say like your moon sign is more, you act like that more when you're a child, your moon sign and your rising, apparently. I don't know if I'm not an astrologer, but that's what I've heard.
Well, I'm a Leo moon and a Leo sun, so.
Oh, wow. You got a lot of, see, why did I have people with the Gemini moon? I have all things. The Gemini, damn it, which makes me so indecisive. It makes me like, I'm like classic Gemini energy. Whereas my kids, like my son, he's a Cancer moon, my eldest, and he's so Cancer moon. And then my youngest is a Taurus moon, and he's so like physical touch, like likes being close to you, things like that. Whereas like the Cancer moon and my son, he's very like, he's a very nurturing person. He always like even the other day, he's like, Mum, I'm so grateful for you. Like, he's just the sweetest soul. And my youngest is too, in his own way. Like, obviously that Taurus energy, he's very like, it's my way or the highway, with that Aries energy.
As well. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, he really incarnated and said, I'm really going to put you through it, Mum. I've got to really make you learn things.
I'll be your
And he does. I navigate through that so much, but I love it. So it'll be really interesting when this when this spirit baby decides to come in and like what their energy is going to bring to the table. I'm like, oh, I can feel that water sign energy, which I think is exactly what this house needs, to be honest. Yeah.
We so Poppy, she's a Pisces, and then we've got Noah, the Libra. So he's like the one that can kind of like see everybody's point of view, has lots of feelings. He can be like either way. And then now we've got Poet, and he's a Sagittarius. And already I'm like,
oh, wow.
He's here to be like, right, guys, this is what's up. All right. You're all going to listen to me.
Yes.
To, like, pull everyone into order.
Yeah. Sagittarius energy is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I love it, but I also hate it at the same time. It's because they're like they're so expansive and they like really push you. Yes. And sometimes I'm like, I don't want to be pushed right now. Okay.
I know. I could tell, like when I was pregnant with him, I knew he wanted to come out by like 4 months or whenever you start feeling them, because he was just like push. It's like, this is what is happening. And he came 3 weeks early because he's like, I'm ready.
Wow. So he would have been almost a Capricorn, hey?
Yeah. He was meant to be the 1st of Jan, and then he was born 12th of December.
Wow. That's crazy. Yeah. I was meant to be the end of, I was meant to be early September. I came 2 weeks early. So I was technically always meant to be a Virgo, but then my soul apparently said, this girl's going to be a Leo with red hair. And of course, I'm the only one in their family that got the red hair. So I got a throwback somewhere.
That's Noah. Like, Noah's got red hair too.
I know. It's so beautiful. I love it. And I love it's becoming so much more like it's not something that's weird anymore. Yeah, it's not weird anymore. In fact, it's actually like cool, which I love that. I always thought I would have a redhead child. So far, I haven't. I've had 2 blonde children. Go figure.
You never know.
I know. I'm waiting. I'm like, there has to be red in there somewhere. Like, I can't be the only one. It's so strange.
Okay. So to finish off, I've got the 5 round questions. These are the really deep and meaningful ones.
All right. Okay, I'm ready. I love how your face is like, I'm like, okay.
All right. What is one movie you could watch 1,000 times and never get sick of?
Okay, I think we all know what I'm about to say. It's obviously Practical Magic. It's every time I'm on my period, I watch it. Yeah, I'm like, nah. They keep saying like the second one, they'll never make another one.
No, don't.
I really don't think that they will.
Alone. I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah.
Well, I will, but I'm not going to like it.
You're going to make it better. Do you know what I would like if they made magic lessons?
They need
into a movie.
All of them.
Oh, they could make all of them into a movie.
Well, they're making Rules of Magic into a TV show.
Oh, what? Really?
Mm.
Oh, there you go. I did not know that.
Making it, but then COVID hit and it all stopped. So I'm interested because I love it. I love it so much.
Because that's the one with the 2 sisters and the brother.
Yeah.
Yeah. That one threw me off a little bit at first. I was like, oh, but then I liked it. The Magic Lessons is always my favorite Alice Hoffman book. I just love that one.
I know. I would love it if they did that.
Yeah. They'd have to do it well, though. They'd have to do it well.
Yeah. I would love it if they did the last. Have you read the last book yet?
Which one's the last one?
The Book of Magic or the Book of Magic?
I don't think I've read it. I'm reading Practical Magic at the moment.
Oh, so this one is
so
like
different.
All combined. So like the aunties and Sally and Jillian and like the kids and the uncle and all that.
Does it feel like chaos or is it good?
It is a bit chaotic, but it is really good. And I would love it if they did it and they had like Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock in it.
Yeah. There you go. I didn't know there was another book. I thought Practical Magic was the last one.
No, it's the newest one. It's so good.
Oh my God. Yeah, even the Practical Magic book, I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. Like it threw me off at first, but now I'm kind of like,
different.
It's actually keeping me reading it because now I actually don't, like I can see where they've taken bits and used it.
It's a different story.
Yeah. And the way they perceive the aunts in the book, they make them kind of sound mean.
Like Sally is like not that likable and you go, but I liked her in the movie.
Yeah. And she moves away. Like, it's different. It's very different. But I mean, I like it, but I mean, I love the movie.
I know. The movie is perfection in every way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what is a book that changed your life?
Oh God, that's a good. Okay. This book is what really got me like leaning into the cycle syncing and all of that sort of stuff, which is weird because it doesn't really fully cover it. Oh, maybe she does a little bit. I don't know. Rebecca Campbell, I think it's called Rise, Sister, Rise.
Okay.
I don't know if you've read that. It's really amazing. She had one called Letters to a Starseed. I hated it. I think there's a lot of problematic stuff with the term starseed anyway.
Yeah.
Some people agree with that. Some people disagree. That's so fine. But that one, I honestly, I thought it was shit. Like, I'm being honest. I thought it was actually crap. I was like, I don't like this. But Rise, Sister, Rise, I loved. And I think, and then her first book, I forgot what it's called. I can't remember what it's called, but there was a first one I really liked as well. But Rise, Sister, Rise, hands down, completely changed my view of how I see myself.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
If you could be any animal for a day, what would you be?
Okay, this is what's so funny. I'm about to, people will be like, whoever's listening is probably like, what the hell? Okay, so the thing is, I'm terrified of birds. I'm really scared of them.
They're
but
dodgy.
Yeah, right. They look like they're going to poke my eyes out at any moment, but they're also so beautiful. So if I could be anything, I would be a swallow bird. I love them. And they're also like an animal that always comes to me whenever I'm feeling really lost in my life, which is so funny because when I had my warehouse, I think I had just gotten maybe like my 5th negative test, like a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And I felt so down. I was like, this is just never going to happen for us. And I was feeling like really like deep and down in myself. And then this bird flew into my warehouse and it was a swallow bird. Yeah. And it came 2 days in a row and then I never saw it again.
Do you know what they mean?
Well, they're obviously the bird of the sailors, the traveling, they say that they guide you home, basically. So I think that's what it was telling me, like that everything was going to be all right. So if I could be anything, it would probably be a swallow bird, which is so weird because I'm terrified of birds. Like when it came in, I was freaked out. I was thinking, I'm about to die right now. I'm gonna have to tell I was like, I'm gonna have to tell Nath, I'm so sorry. I've died in my warehouse doing what I love. At least I've died doing what I love. Like at least I've done that. I was thinking, oh, it was so scary. Everything left, and then I just shut the door because I was like, you can't come back in. But yeah, I would be a swallow bird. But I didn't even really have to think about that. Actually, because part of me is like, I love otters because I think they're so cute when they hold hands.
Don't even start.
Right, they're so freaking cute.
Their little
I know. And don't they like mate for life? Isn't like a thing where like they mate? I think that's a thing. I'm pretty sure that's it. They mate for life with the same otter.
Feel like an animal that would mate, and they'd have like the best like tea, and they'd all cuddle with each other and just like be so cute.
So cute, but I would be a bird because I would want to see things and see a different view of things. That would be cool.
That's a good answer.
And also shit on people who annoyed me. I'm joking. That was a joke. Partly a joke. Part of being serious.
Partly a joke. You did that very forcefully, I feel like. There's a lot of honesty there. Yeah, like I have a bad day. Well, they say it's good luck, so whatever. I'm yet to understand that theory. Me too. I haven't had no luck from being shot on by a bird, but no, maybe it's coming. Okay, if you could sit down and have a chat with anybody, be it famous, not famous, dead, alive, for an hour, who would you want to talk with?
Oh, that's such a good question. It actually would not be a famous person at all. I think we need to take famous people off pedestals because they're just people, right? And I wouldn't say, I mean, they all inspire me at the end of the day. They've had to work hard to get where they are, but it's not who I'd want to talk with. I'd probably want to talk with, I would probably say probably my nan, actually. I'd probably want to talk to my nan because I really want to know more about our family and things like that. But it's hard because I have my nan on my mum's side, but then I also have my nan on my dad's side. And my great nan on my dad's side, we believe is the one that was quite witchy.
Oh, interesting.
Yes. But she never openly said about it. But my auntie and I have had many discussions, and she was actually a twin. And my sisters even had dreams about the twins coming through. So the twins, like the nan energy coming through.
Mhm.
So I feel like there's a lot that she could probably tell me that I don't know. It'd be more wanting to know about my ancestors, I think. So it'd be like one of my ancestors, but it'd probably be my nan from my mum's side. I'm sorry, Nan. She's probably like, why would you not choose
Wow.
me? She's probably watching me right now being like,
I'm gonna
why?
hate you
That's
so
rude.
bad.
She was like Scottish, so she's very like,
Oh yeah, don't man.
she would hate,
Okay.
yeah. Sorry, Nan, but it would be the other one, but just mainly because there's so many things that she did that I'm very curious about.
You've
Like,
got
where did that come from?
questions.
Yeah, I have so many questions. So that's probably who it would be, because I would want to know more, because I don't know about you, but I really want to base my craft around where my ancestors came from. And obviously on my mum's side, it's Scotland, which is where I get my red hair from. And then my dad's side of the family is England. Like, we still have family members over there.
Yeah.
And they're from Cornwall. So obviously there's a lot of magical stuff there. Yeah. So I'd love to know more about that, mainly so I can implement it into my practices to honor them, but also like, I just think if we all connected back to that, maybe that bitter energy that we're seeing online wouldn't happen.
Interesting.
Yeah, I really feel like if we just all connect, but it's hard because I know that some people, you know, there's adoption and there's, you know, all that sort of stuff. So some people that's really hard to do. So when people say you need to connect back to your ancestors, I'm like, not everyone can do that. And I think it's really important to have for that discussion to even happen online, because it's a bit, I don't know what the term of that would be, but it can be a little, I don't know what
It's
it's
like a lot of like levels to it, you know, like I think you can totally do that where you connect with your present ancestors, but then there are people who are so drawn, like for example, to maybe like Norse mythology, but they have no Norse ancestors. But you go, well, maybe in a previous life you were, you know. So it's like so many layers to it where you go, do I look back in this life, or do I do a past life regression, or am I just drawn to it for some other random reason? Like it opens up a can of worms, I think.
Fully. When I did a past life regression, I was actually Dutch.
I was Scottish.
Wow, that's so cool. Oh my God, that's crazy.
And I had red hair.
Oh, there you go. It's rhyming. That's crazy.
Last question.
Yeah.
What does your perfect day look like?
Do you know what is so interesting? There's two, oh God, actually, this is harder than what I thought it was going to be. There's two versions of a perfect day for me. One is where the kids don't bicker and we're outside all day and like everything just flows, right? Yeah. But then the other perfect day is where I just literally be by myself and I go to like all these witchy stores, or I go to an antique store and I find the exact thing I'm after.
Yeah.
That is the best feeling ever. Yeah. So it'd be like honestly going to like different places to try new food. It would be going to antique stores and finding stuff I like, going through, like it would literally be doing and like going shopping basically. Wow, I'm such a Leo. Now I think, wow, I'm like, that's a very Leo answer. Like shopping and finding like and going antique, like to the stores I want to go to. Yeah. Not like, oh, can we go look at the toy store? I don't want to look at that. I don't want to look at that. So it depends. It depends, because I saw this the other day and it really got me thinking. They said parents describe their perfect day without their kids. So why did you have kids? And I'm like, why would you say that? But I also think that a lot of people who say that maybe don't have kids and don't understand how much of a weight it is to always obviously be around your kids at all times, right? Especially as mums. I think we're like, you know, there's still so much shame around mums doing things without their kids with them. And I'm like, but if that was a dad, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
Like how they go, that's so nice that like, you know, your husband is watching the kids and you're like, you mean he's being a dad?
Right. Yes. I'm
he's
like,
not doing a favor. He's doing his job.
That's as they should, considering they co-created those kids, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah. So I don't know. It depends, because like part of me is like, I love it if my kids like just didn't. And some days they don't argue at all, and sometimes it's amazing, and then other days, you know, they're both two different people navigating themselves, and conflict comes with that. So yeah, it really depends. Again, it depends on how I feel. If I'm in my like luteal menstruation phase, it would be like me just being on my own. Mm-hmm. Whereas if I'm in like the follicular luteal phase, I love doing things with my kids then.
Yeah.
But the other times they do stuff and I'm like, I'm feeling moody today and that's annoying me and I have to be nice to you right now. Yeah, I'm like, I always say, Mummy's trying to be nice to you right now. But I'm telling you, I have limits too. And right now you're hitting the wall of limitation. And I'm just going to tell you, I need to break away from you for a second.
I'm about to not be nice.
Yeah. Mummy's getting a little bit much now. But yeah, I'm like, and again, it's that boundaries with my kids as well. Knowing when I can be like, okay, I'm not feeling that great today. So today we're going to do things that I like doing because that's going to make me feel better. And then when they're having those days, I'm like, what can we do to like support you?
I like that. And I totally understand because I'm the same. Like I love doing things with my kids and like planning days where we go on adventures. It's all fun. And sometimes they want to kill each other and sometimes I want to kill everyone.
Yeah.
But I also love being by myself because I'm such a like introvert in my heart.
Yeah.
And that's how I recharge. And that's like nothing personal. That doesn't mean I don't love my husband or my kids.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that. It just means that that's how I like to recharge.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to want both. I don't think there's shame in that.
Yeah, because when I heard that, I was like, I'm not going to lie. It definitely got me thinking. I was like, oh, you got me thinking about that. Like, I'm going to see your perspective. I can see why you would be saying that. But I also think that maybe you don't have kids because I also think it's important to honor the fact that sometimes like that parent really just like needs some space. And
you're not just a parent. Like, that's not just who you are. You're also a human and you're allowed to want to be
Exactly. Yeah. And like there's definitely times where I 100% need that. Like even Nathan and I got to a point where I'm like, you know, he might say, oh, I'm just going to go watch a movie on my own. And I like don't get offended by that because I'm like, he needs space right now. And like, I'm the same. I'm like last night I was so tired. Like when I said I got 10 hours sleep and it's like, why don't you just go to bed? And I was like, yeah, okay then. And he did like all the nighttime stuff. And it was just like nice to be like, I don't have to do anything right now. I can just be myself and lay here like a slug or a sloth and just do nothing. I was so tired. I couldn't, you know how like sometimes you're tired and you're like, I'm just going to mindlessly like scroll through things and watch things. I couldn't even do that.
I
was like, no,
I'm so tired. I can't even do nothing.
Yeah. And Nate's trying to talk to me and I'm like, like, I don't even know what I'm saying. I need to go to bed. Yeah. So it really depends. My perfect day is dependent on how I feel.
I get that. I think that's a good answer.
I'm so Gemini. See, that Gemini moon is shining through where it's like, I can't decide. Both.
I want everything.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe that's the Leo part as well. I want everything.
Yeah, I know. When I looked at my birth chart for the first time, I was like, damn, why would I incarnate like that?
A lot of knowledge.
I know, right? Yeah. I suppose that's a good thing with Gemini. I always want to learn new things, but then sometimes I'm like, too much, Hannah. Too much.
I've learned enough today.
Yeah. Oh, my reading stack is ridiculous.
Oh yeah,
it's so bad. Yeah, I'm like, witches stop releasing good books because at this point, I've got to start reading them.
It's probably an addiction that I'm not willing to address.
Yeah. Oh yeah, same. Or like a candle. I'm like, oh, that's really nice, and I'm like, so pretty, I can't burn it. Just burn the damn candle.
All right.
The
vibe.
Yeah, and that's something I've learned now. Like I save things. Oh, I save that for this ritual. Oh, I save that for this part of my practice. And I've learned if I die tomorrow, my spirit's going to be like, why didn't you just burn that candle?
Yeah, you can buy.
Why did you not just do more? Exactly. I hoard for dear life. Like I'm never going to see it again. It's a problem. I need to address it.
I'm the same. Well, thank you so much for being here. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Yes.
Fun.
Yeah.
And if anyone wants to come and see you and learn more from you, where can they find you?
Well, obviously my Instagram and my TikTok. They would be like the two main places, really. DMs I don't answer on TikTok. But I show more content on TikTok just because I like that platform a lot better personally. Instagram is still very much aesthetic, and don't get me wrong, I love the aesthetic, but sometimes I just want to like talk.
Yes.
And I find Instagram doesn't let you do that unless it's on stories.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I would say I put more content on TikTok and expand more on there, but I answer DMs and stuff more on Instagram.
Cool.
Does that mean, hopefully that makes sense.
No,
I don't know if you're like that too. Like,
I think that TikTok's like where I go to talk more and like teach more stuff.
Yeah.
Where Instagram's like the pretty
Yeah.
vibes.
yeah, it's the aesthetic vibes. I think it's, I don't know. I don't know if it will ever shift. I think some people have tried to make it shift. I'm like, it's just not going to. Instagram is just, it's its own little thing.
Who knows?
I
what
know.
Instagram is.
Yeah, I still feel like there's another app coming out. Every time a new one comes out, I'm like, that's not it. I feel like there's an app that's going to change everything in the next year or two.
I mean, that's good. I'm actually
Yeah.
going to get onto this one quickly because I'm always like, something will come out and then Patty's like, you should really like jump on this because it's going to be like the next big thing. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I don't want to. And then a year
Yes.
later, I'm like, maybe I should have done that.
No, I know. It's the same with TikTok as well. No, I fully get what you're saying. I think YouTube will stick around for the long haul.
I feel like YouTube's having a resurgence because everyone's so
100%.
sick of like Instagram and stuff that people will go back.
Yeah. And it's like, so it's just like quick. Like, it's just, even when I
There's no
try and,
bullshit. It's like you type in what you want and it's there.
yeah, there's no, you don't have to like fight no out. Yeah, I agree. I do love YouTube. I will say I watch YouTube more than Netflix, more than anything else. YouTube's where I watch because it's just that I like being able to know that I'm supporting someone who like is pouring all their creativity into that thing. I'm not saying Netflix and stuff don't do that, but like, I don't know. Although I did watch Queen Charlotte the other day and I didn't like Bridgerton, but I loved Queen Charlotte. I loved that. I couldn't get into Bridgerton. I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I didn't like it.
Any of those ones.
Nah, but I did really, really like Queen Charlotte. I highly recommend that.
Cool.
It was a beautiful way of acknowledging mental illness as well. It kind of touches that on there and how, I don't know. I thought the way they depicted it was quite beautiful.
Cool.
Yeah.
There's a recommendation for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know. Never thought I'd be saying you should watch Queen Charlotte. Never thought I'd be saying that, but it's good. It's good.
Well, thank you again, Hannah. I do really appreciate you coming on.
Yes,
and
yeah.
everyone should definitely go and check her out because you do good stuff and
thank you.
You're a good witch to watch. So
thank you.
And thank you everyone for listening. And I will be back soon with more witchy stuff. See you later.
Bye.